Hey kids, welcome to another episode of the Handsome Genius Club radio show. I am your hero, your host, Anthony Rutgazer, aka Anthony Kingdom James, joining us today. This is, I think, episode 488. Look below, it should say. 488. Let's go with 488 until somebody proves me wrong. Joining me today, when I got back into comics back in about 2009, 2010, started going back to the Silver Snail, the comic store where I grew up. There were a new crop of fresh-faced, smiley nerds working in the store, and amongst them was a howdy doody looking mother effer by the name of Sean Jordan, a kid from Halifax who had just the biggest I'm just happy to be here smile on his face all the time. And over the years, as I got to know him more and more, I stopped calling him Sean because he had a gimmick name that I liked better. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Wordburglar.
Wow. What an intro. What an honor. Thank you.
What's going on, Burg?
Wow, 2009? I would have I guess we've known each other a while.
Yeah. It's scary. Yeah, you were one of the guys who was working at the store.
Yep.
When I started coming back to, I moved back into Toronto and I started coming back to the store, and you were just there, just smiling like a goddamn mannequin all the time.
Oh, come on. Well, who wouldn't? Look, it's a dream job working at the greatest, biggest comic store in Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, the Snail, Queen West. There's so much action and excitement every day, surrounded by cool comics, cool people, like so many amazing artists used to come through there, like comic artists, musicians, actors. Met so many cool people there, including yourself, to say the least. And it was a great time, man. That was an amazing era on Queen, because I started there. I was there a long time. I actually started in 2003.
Oh, yeah,
2003, and then I would go away. I left for a bit, and then would keep coming back. And I think all in all, I probably put in about 10 years.
Wow.
Into the Snail. So yeah, man. Yeah.
So
great times.
It doesn't baffle me personally to, find a kid from Canada's East Coast makes his way downhill to Toronto, has to find work, ends up at the Silver Snail. That doesn't surprise me at all. Certainly not the came from the East Coast part. What I want to know is, how does the smiling white boy from Halifax end up becoming a rapper? How do you even think that's a possibility? It's like an African tribesman thinking, man, I'm going to play in the NHL. How do you
Well, I'll tell you a secret. I never thought it was a possibility.
Oh?
I just did it.
Okay.
I just always loved doing it. I just always loved rap. I would rap along to, like, I'd get tapes from my kids in my neighborhood, or, my cousins. I remember my cousin gave me, like, I got like Public Enemy and Ice Cube and then Run DMC and Fresh Prince, all the amazing 80s stuff. And I just always loved it. And I love the wordplay. I love the creativity. I love the storytelling. Everyone's got, like, it's, a lot like, wrestling as well. People have, like, larger than life characters, but then it would be balanced with real life and reality, and the breadth, if that's the way to say it, of art that was coming out of just hip hop. I was obsessed with. I was obsessed with comics and rap, and, like, just all these incredible different voices, and I just always loved it. And I would rap and I would rhyme, and it was really my friends who would always just kind of encourage me, and they're like, oh yeah, SJ, he raps, like, kick some rhymes. I'd be like, I don't know. And I just, like, freestyle and say some stuff. And then, kids would, like, bring me around to, like, rap, and I just always did it. And I never thought, like, yeah, I could, like, make a steady, side career or whatever this is that, I'm doing, and I just always love doing it, and I never
Well,
stopped doing it, and it's just been busier every year since I was like 8.
I like that, you mentioned those first few artists and their personas and what they were rapping about and how it became uh kind of an early form of social media to listen to the lyrics of an NWA or listen to the lyrics of a Public Enemy and find out uh, about people's actual lives in a situation that most people weren't experiencing themselves. And I like that when it came time for you to rap, you weren't trying to emulate the content of those lyrics. You weren't trying to push a false Vanilla Ice narrative that you were from the gritty streets of wherever. You've been giving us your life for the past 15 years plus. And I know you've got one of the reasons you're here today is because you've got a new album. And tell us about the new album and what do we have to look forward to in the content there?
Okay, well, first, I mean, thank you. And I always kind of joke that I got a better education from Public Enemy than public school. So, and that was true.
That's good.
And
That's
well,
good.
it's the truth, man. I mean, to this day, I mean, Chuck D is incredible. And I could go on and on, talk hip hop all day, but what was always important to me was, giving your true perspective. My favorite artists gave their true, honest perspective and rapped about their life. So whether it was like the artists you said, like NWA, Public Enemy, their perspectives, or you get someone like back in the day, you had Fresh Prince, who was being more playful, but also, and just so much like that. So it was always important to me to just like, to use a cliche, but be real and not like Cypress Hill Be Real, but if you want to do that, I won't do a bad Be Real impression. I love Cypress Hill. But yeah, I got a new album, Burgonomic. It's my 8th full-length album. So I've put out tons of different mixtapes and group albums and stuff, but I like to approach my solo albums, with like my one sort of vision per album. And that's where I just kind of knuckle down and work with a bunch of different beat makers and DJs and vocalists and just try and create like a solid album, because I still love the album in an era when everyone's into singles. I like that this group of songs are meant to go together and tell some stories and hit some notes and show some sides of things and complement each other. And that's what Burgonomic is. Like it's essentially like a mixtape. So I'm touching on a variety of different stories and topics and narratives, all relating to my love of rapping and storytelling and wordplay. And I like to think that every song on the album kind of hits a different note. So there's definitely a comic book song, there's a video game song, there's an action figure song, there's also a storytelling song, there's a character song, there's a group song, there's just all these different little things. So I really did approach this album like looking at a mixtape. If I was making a mixtape back in the day and I'm putting on like, okay, I'm going to put on like Slick Rick and Masked Ace and, House of Pain here and whoever here and Naughty by Nature and blah, 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 blah. Like you want to hit all these different notes. So I guess when I put together an album, that's what I want to do.
Because you have drilled down into specific topics before for albums. I mean, you have an entire album of G.I. Joe songs.
It's true. It's because G.I. Joe's the best.
So this one is more of a everything about you. This is more of a buffet of Burg.
Yeah, it's basically like during the pandemic and during the last like 2+ years. I've recorded a lot of music and I haven't released a lot of it in 2 years. So I'm sitting on a ton of stuff. And this group of songs to me, feel like the best group of songs that go together of ideas that I've had for songs. But yeah, and the G.I. Joe album, that came out of just always, especially working at the Snail at a time when G.I. Joe was not popular. And I was like, the aging G.I. Joe fan. And people were like, why do you like this? What is G.I. Joe? That hasn't been cool since like the 80s. I'm like, actually, it was still cool up to 1994, if we are keeping track. And it never stopped being cool, thanks to Larry Hama's amazing work on the comics, which we know. But yeah, basically I did that album because I was like, no, it's super cool. And here's why. And that started as one song, and then I just couldn't stop. So it turned into a whole album.
You mentioned the pandemic. How does a Canadian entertainer survive a 2+ year pandemic?
Well,
like, does it turn into the scene from Slapshot where the hockey players are all watching, getting the news that the mill is closing? It's like, fucking Chrysler plant, here I come. Like, what's...
Well, it's funny, like leading up to the pandemic, I had been busier than I'd ever been. I'd been on tour almost for like 2 years, pretty much. And I got to go all through the States and Canada, and went to Japan and all over the place. It was amazing. And I was becoming a dad. So my daughter was born basically right at the end of December. So just a couple months before the pandemic started. So I was already getting ready to I'm looking forward to being a dad. I'm going to have some great time with my daughter. So obviously tour, I did my last show, I think it was March 12th or 13th. And then when did the pandemic start? The 16th.
It was the 16th. 15th or 16th was the Monday.
Yeah. So it was that weekend. I think I played on the Friday. I did 2 shows back to back, Friday, Saturday night. And then by Sunday, it was like, I'm hearing weird stuff. And even that weekend, I remember people being like, I don't know, should we high five? Should we whatever? And people were just a bit nervous. So, so those were my last shows.
And what did you do? Because I keep bringing up to people that originally that middle of that, the first couple of weeks of March where we knew something was coming, the official word was that, the city was going to shut down for a couple of weeks and we'll clear that virus on out of here. And then we'll get back to normal. And more than 2 years later, it's still not normal. So, what were your thoughts when you get to that 2, 3, 4 week mark and you start to realize this is going to go on longer than anybody said? What does your immediate future look like? How do you pivot in that moment?
Yeah, well, that's tough. I mean, I was writing. I stayed writing through the whole time. And I just, working other jobs, working odd jobs, picking up work and doing like writing jobs and things like that, and just picking up work and then looking at projects that I had on the back burner that I just hadn't gotten around to doing, like releasing vinyl. Welcome to Cobra Island. I'd always wanted to put on vinyl. So I was like, okay, maybe now's the time I can actually, I feel like I can focus on doing this online crowdfunder for it. And we were able to crowdfund vinyl for that. So I did that, worked on some more projects. I wound up getting an acting gig, and I wound up acting in a Transformers cartoon.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that.
So look, I cannot complain. I was able to stay busy and just keep working. And luckily we had our apartment was good, and we were all set, and it was just my wife and our baby, and got a lot of quality dad time in. And it was, honestly, we really made the best of it.
Did you go full Michael Keaton? Did you become Mr. Mom?
Yeah, I mean, that's been like a real silver lining for me, like just being able to be home so much and just watch my daughter grow. And now we've got another one on the way, actually. So
What?
yeah, so we like the first one so much, we're like, let's see if we can get some more out of this.
Oh.
So yeah, so it's I really enjoy really enjoy being a parent. It's sweet.
Very cool.
But yeah, the music, I've been lucky to just keep recording, just working on a whole bunch of stuff, trying to tie up some loose ends. I have a few projects that aren't announced yet that I was working on. And it was just looking at all the things that have gone on. Really, I can't complain about anything.
Well, I mean, beyond music, I've always known you. You've written your own comics, and you mentioned the Transformers BotBot show that you are. What is the name of your character on BotBots?
Starscope.
Starscope, and Starscope is
a scientist transformer wrapping like microscope. A starscope, if you will.
Fantastic.
And that's a fun show. It's a really fun take on Transformers.
Yeah,
I may be biased, but I think it's a lot of fun.
I watched a couple of episodes. It's very, as I've taken to saying the last year or so, I am not the target market for this show. I would rather, I'm trying to, you've known me a long time. You know that my default setting is cynical bastard. So,
but you've got a really sweet candy center.
I do. It's mostly,
we can see past that.
It's mostly the diabetes collecting the sugar into a ball.
Oh man.
So BotBots is very much aimed for, I would say, a 5 to 10-year-old audience.
Yeah, which is me, exactly. So that's
So I watched and thought, and my thought was, kids are gonna love this. I'm not the target market. Is there more BotBots on the way? Do you have other irons in the fire for voice acting work similar to that?
I haven't heard anything about BotBots yet. Hopefully they do another season. If they wanted me back, I would love to do that. I think it's a brilliant show. The writers are great. I know they're super busy. They're working on Ninjago and a whole bunch of other things. So I don't know about that. I'm always open to do things like people. I've got nothing as cool as that lined up right now in terms of voice work. But
how did the BotBots gig come about?
It's an interesting story. So I was touring with the Cybertronic Spree, who I think you know.
Yes.
The amazing band, and we played a couple shows in New York City. And after the show, a guy came up to me after I was opening for them, and a guy came up and started talking to me, and he introduced himself. And it turned out that I had done I did a theme song for one of the writers' TV shows years ago for a Funny or Die project called Mystic Cosmic Patrol. And it was this amazing, almost like an adult version of the Power Rangers, but not like, super adult, just more, for grownups. And it was hilarious. And I did their theme song. And even then, I'm not quite sure how they found me. I think someone on the show knew my music and they brought me in. And after the show, this writer came up to me, this amazing guy, Doc, and we were talking. He said, I'm working on this Transformers show. Would you consider maybe doing a voice? And I was like, of course, I would love to. Yeah. And then honestly, didn't think anything of it. Pandemic happens, time passes. I get an email from a casting director asking me to audition for this thing. And I didn't really know there was any connection. I don't know who. Every now and then I get messages from people to audition for stuff, which is cool. Yeah. And I just went in and auditioned, and turns out that the writer had put my name forward, and I wound up getting the gig. So
Very
it
nice.
was really, really cool. Yeah.
And I mentioned your comic books. You Snake Horse Pizza, which is again your love of GI Joe coming out, and Last Paper Route. Is there more of Last Paper Route on the way?
Yes,
Possibly?
it's been on
Yeah.
hiatus. So you know all about how hiatuses work, I think, with
Yes.
comics.
God,
And
yes.
I would say the fault lies on my shoulders because
Yeah.
Dave Howlett, the artist, is just incredible and so prolific. And anyone listening, go check out Dave Howlett's work and check out The Makers, which is his comic book series reimagining kind of the image boom, the image creators of the 90s. It's such a phenomenal book. So Dave illustrates The Last Paper Route, and I write it with my lifelong best friend and fellow former paperboy, Alex Kennedy. And yeah, we were paper boys when we were kids, and we made our own comics then about our zany adventures. And Cal Johnston, who owned Strange Adventures, where we used to hang out, the comic shop in Halifax, he encouraged us to make it like an actual mini comic zine. And we photocopied it and sold it for 50 cents. And it was just the best. And Alex and I always said, we got to revisit this series now that we're a bit older, a bit wiser, and can somehow convince Dave to draw it. Because I used to draw it, and I don't have the chops for that. Anyway, so we've put out 4 issues of that, which I'm so proud of. And issue 5 we have planned out. It's going to wrap up that whole story arc. And it's just basically been a matter of getting that project. But with music and everything else, I've got my fingers in. We just haven't got the script finished. So got to do it.
So with the new album, going back to the new album, I'm wondering, you mentioned getting together with people for, beats and samples and lyrics. Where do you get your beats and your samples? Who's your inner circle of creative people, and where is stuff coming from?
Great question. I've been working with a lot of the same producers since I started putting stuff out in the early 2000s. So like Beat Mason and Fresh Kills and Timbuktu. These are just amazingly talented friends that I've known for years who make beats, and year after year, they just keep getting better and better, and they keep being willing to work with me. and so they produce beats. And then over the years, I've met other beat makers. There's like DK and Milk Plus, Diagnostic 80. I mean, this album's crazy because it's got a whole bunch of different production. Joe Rum Bombay, who's like a Halifax hip hop legend. And we've done tracks before in the past. And he produced a song on the album called Wolco Tapes. Buck 65, who you may know, who is just an incredible artist. And I've been a fan since I was a kid. He produced a beat, which was like a huge deal for me to like work on a song with him.
That's cool.
So that means a lot. And there's so many. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, yeah, Iron Monkey, who's an artist I met actually just online during the pandemic, and I really liked his work. And he had been doing these remixes of MF Doom, and I just kind of shot him a message and said, "Hey, I really dig your stuff." And then he got back to me, and I guess he checked out my stuff, and we just got talking. And next thing you know, he's playing beats for me. So. And Peter Project, who I've worked with a bunch of times, who produced Spawn Guy, which is a song that that directly ties back to Silver Snail. So, yeah.
I listened to Spawn Guy a little earlier, and I like Spawn Guy. Spawn Guy, you obsessive weirdo, you. I like Spawn Guy. It's great. That is the mind of somebody just hyper focused in on one nerd love and just spiraling out of control.
Well, it's kind of based on experience,
Yes. Do you we're gonna get off track here because you just reminded me of something, and I was talking to our friend George Zotti. Talk George all the time, but we were talking a few weeks ago, and there's a Silver Snail story that came up, and it's before your time, actually. This is from the Silver Snail, the North store, Young and Eglinton store. And we just recently had the anniversary of the Death of Superman issue. And there was, I don't know if you know this, do you know the story of Neville?
I have met, yes. And I met many of the customers over the years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the quick story of Neville for people at home is he was a comic book fan who used to frequent the store, and when the Death of Superman issue came out, George had the bright idea, or somebody in the store had the bright idea, to create an oversized memorial card, and fans could sign it, and then they sent it to the DC Comics offices in New York. And Neville signed the card, "I love you, and now you're gone." And then started to weep, like in the store, after signing, started to cry. And it was at once the most touching and unnerving thing you'd ever seen.
Man, I'm tearing up thinking of that. I mean, it's, you know, working in that world, which I love and I've been a part of my whole life, you do meet so many different people. And these characters mean so much. They mean things to people that you would never understand. So I always made a point when I was working at the shop to really try not to judge anybody and whether they were buying comics that I thought sucked. I never wanted to be that comic book shop work employee who was like turning up their nose. And, I would read everything and I would see the value in everything. And, we could name stuff all day of like well, this is good, and I would meet people even when I was a kid, like, and they would like condescend to me when I would buy my comics. Oh, I used to read G.I. Joe. Yeah, when it was good. Now it sucks. Or, you like Spider-Man, you should be reading Sandman. Like, it's like, whatever, I'm 9. I don't care about Sandman right now. I want to read Spidey. Like, let me read my Spider-Man and, back off. So, and you would meet these people and, the Spawn guy, the song, which is on the new album, if I can talk about it since you've heard it.
Please do.
I was working at the Snail in that time that I'm sure you may remember, but McFarlane toys were huge.
Everything was getting a McFarlane release. Yeah.
Like you couldn't fathom it now because just with the way the action figure market exploded. But we all know that McFarlane was the first one to really get in there on those like collector figures. And working at the Snail, Ron, the owner, had like the foresight to order in advance and get like the connections so that he could be the first place in like probably Canada to get the new McFarlane stuff. And no joke, like we'd have our Wednesday deliveries of comics and new stuff, but we would get McFarlane, like McFarlane would show up in a different truck, like huge crates, and we would load in these giant boxes of McFarlane Sports, Spawn, everything. And then sure enough, like guys would be circling the block saying, when's the new Spawn coming in? And they came in those big bubble carded things. Yeah. And no joke, we'd have people lining up buying full sets, like all 6, and we'd have to limit them. And then you'd have everybody like looking at the paint job to see, I don't know, my Angela, her panties are painted weird. Let me get a different one. And there was a rare variant Angela.
Weird.
There was one of them. And I apologize.
It's funny because I absolutely know it's true.
100% true. And listen, the figures looked cool.
Yeah.
I wound up getting a couple Spawn figures, but I didn't get all of them. But I always wondered, like, who are these people who bought every single Spawn? Yeah. And could you name them all? Because there were so many. And we would get very intense people who would want to share their love of whatever character they like the
Yeah.
most and just like be up in your face about it, get in
Yeah.
your grill, and they talk to like other customers. You could be there just trying to read the, flip through the latest Legion of Superheroes, and this guy comes up and is like, "Yo, you like Spawn guy? Yo,
Yeah.
Spawn's sick. Let me tell you why Spawn's good." The guy's like, "I just want to read about, Molecule Lad or
Yeah.
something."
But one of your jobs, part of your job working in a comic store, is to have those conversations and facilitate those conversations, and to let those fans of whatever properties know that they're in a happy, safe space where they, nobody's going to be. That's what, you mentioned comic book stores where you get some guys who are looking down on your purchases, or for a while we had a couple of years there where there were so many stories about female fans going into stores and being harassed. There's no need for it. How is this not the most welcoming of genres, of fandoms? So yeah. No, I as much as I still get a giggle out of thinking about Neville getting that upset, man, it just shows how much he really the character really truly meant to him. So that's somebody's work striking an emotional chord.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. And it's so wild to imagine a time before the MCU movie explosion, right? And
yeah.
like that was a different pocket in time. And when I do talk to people who are fans who weren't really around in that era, or they were just like way younger, it's like, wow, like it's fascinating. But yeah, no, and it should be. And the snail, was just, everyone there, we would always just be, we had to be open. I mean, it was Queen West. Everybody came in from it was a destination for downtown, right?
Yeah.
And you met a lot of cool people, and I learned a lot, including the names of every single Spawn action figure ever made. So you see, Anthony, like once you learn all this useless information,
yeah, and it's stuck in your head,
you gotta use it. That's why I put it in a song.
Monetize it.
Yeah.
Monetize your crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I haven't counted, but there are a lot of Spawn figures in that song. So, yeah.
Is there a tour forthcoming? I know you said you've got a second Burglecito.
Yeah, we're having a junior Burg.
Another junior Burg coming, but
junior Burg.
Are you ready to abandon the family and go back out on the road again?
I don't think I'm going to be doing any touring just yet.
No.
So I think for now I'm just going to stay home, probably do some local Toronto shows, might do some Halifax shows. We'll just see how it goes. But it does feel weird releasing a new album without like a big tour, big release party, but we're still kind of in that strange space.
Yeah.
I mean, Anthony, look, I get mobbed if I go out to do a show. I don't want to get mobbed by all these.
Oh, I know. I know.
Listen,
I'm
joking for the listeners. I'm joking.
No, he's not. He's not. This man steps out. This man steps out on stage, and the divorce rate goes up in that thing.
Come on. I think it's just even like Comic Cons I've been avoiding because it's just that many people right now. I'm just not sure if I'm ready.
No, are you no Comic Cons right now?
I haven't done any yet.
No. See, I was going to ask you if am I going to see you in person at Fan Expo in a few months?
Yeah, just right now with the young kids, I'm just staying close to home, I think, for right now. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I think, I'm looking forward to seeing people. I miss people. I will probably do some smaller little shows that may not be that well advertised. But,
So we're talking about the people that you collaborate with and the people that influenced you, and I've seen a couple of things recently because people who've listened to this podcast in the long term uh, know that one of the most notorious episodes of the show was my interview with MC Chris.
Okay.
Rapper MC Chris. And I recently decided to do a little, where are they now Googling. And that's not a story that's gone necessarily very well. And it makes me think about nerdcore hip hop in general, and how in 2000 is the earliest that people trace the use of that tag, that genre, that name, nerdcore hip hop, back to MC Frontalot. And it just kind of, it's not that it was the rise and fall of nerdcore hip hop, it was the rise and fade of nerdcore hip hop as like a cohesive genre. And I think you would agree that your stuff falls quite easily under the umbrella of nerdcore. And I wonder what you think about having seen that rise and fade, and where you think the genre is, or the artists of that genre are today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the most intelligent question you'll be asked all day.
Wow. Yeah. So nerdcore for me, I always think was like kind of a happy accident. I was already doing all this stuff. I didn't even know nerdcore was going on.
Yeah.
I've since become great friends with many of those. MC Frontalot, the best. I think he's such an innovator. I think he's so talented. I think his style, his rap style, is fully original. It's such a like unique, unpredictable, like his cadence and the way he brings the words together and everything. And we've worked together. We've done shows together. Like I've got a lot of respect for MC Frontalot. I know him well. I've never met MC Chris. But Frontalot to me is like, look, I just think he's a great rapper.
Yeah.
And I always say, look, I'm a rapper first. Whatever you want to classify me as or put me in a subgenre, great. Of course, my stuff goes in nerdcore because I'm a nerdy guy. I'm nerdy by nature, right? So, but where I was coming at making my music from, like hip hop and rap, like this is what I grew up with, and I'm just being true to myself, and I'm going to rap about stuff I love, comics, baseball, whatever. I think with a lot of nerdcore people, and MC Frontalot's the same way. MC Frontalot grew up in like New York rap stuff. Like he's like front, and like a lot of these guys, and like Mega Ran, who's huge, another good friend of mine. He's like an incredible artist, and he's on the new record, shameless plug, but and Rand's just been incredible. And Rand comes at it too, like same thing. He was making hip hop, and then he leaned into the video games and found like a great audience in that area. I mean, I don't, because I have toured and played a lot of shows in the nerdcore community and like am grouped with nerdcore, and that's fantastic. I've always been cool with it, but I've also like not really been super heavy involved in it, if that makes sense. So I don't know, like I don't even know what's like when you're saying like the rise and fade of it.
Yeah.
I think maybe it felt like it got all this attention in that first little burst around Frontalot, and I think there was a movie they made, and I mean, I think what happened was like Frontalot's stronger than ever, still putting out stuff. There's a lot of great artists. Same with Mega Ran. That Wordburglar guy is still around, and I don't know. I think a lot of people flocked to it and thought, "Hey, I'm nerdy. I'm just gonna like try and rap on a beat," and like, they couldn't rap. They couldn't write rhymes. They had no rhythm. They had no flow. The beat sucked. they just didn't work on their craft. You know, you can be like, hey, I'm a nerdy baseball player. Great. Well, can you play baseball? No, but I'm holding a baseball bat and I got glasses and I'm, you know, I love computers and I'm doing,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a weird analogy.
No, no.
But like, I'm just kind of like, you got
I
to work
like
on
it
your,
though.
but, and the greater thing of Nerdcore too was it wasn't just hip hop. There were like any genre, and to this day, like I think like chip tunes fell into that and all these different things, so it's still, I think, going strong.
Yeah.
I never really like to like, I try not to put stuff in a genre, you know, like if you had to ask me what my favorite music is and I had to classify it, I would probably say, okay, underground hip hop. That is like, I love underground hip hop. I love whatever you might think underground hip hop is probably, you know, that's the stuff I love and I've always loved. And so I think some people who just came at Nerdcore, who only listened to Nerdcore and then tried to make Nerdcore, maybe there were people who just didn't practice their craft, and it produced a lot of really garbage stuff that maybe gave the genre a really bad name. But the people who had true talent kept going, and you know, I think that's the proof that, you know, Frontalot is still kicking it, because he's like a very talented guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, top talent will persist.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a really long-winded.
No, it was a long question. It deserved a long answer. I did not expect an easy answer for the question. So
yeah,
oh,
I'm probably not the biggest expert on it, but I do get,
well,
as much as I get, you know, lumped into that.
Well, I ain't fucking interviewing MC Chris again.
Well, yeah, I don't know him. So.
That particular shade will come back to haunt me somehow. Anyways, he was good enough to accept the interview, but then I asked him about Nerdcore, and he got surly right away. Because he went back and forth in the early and mid 2000s, late 2000s. He went back and forth between, you know, planting his flag in Nerdcore and wanting nothing to do with Nerdcore. It was very, very, very back and forth. Anyways,
I've always loved I felt honored to be included in Nerdcore. And I've almost felt like, you know, I don't really know the scene as well as maybe I should, but I'm just kind of doing my thing. And I'm a solo guy anyway, so I'm just kind of following my own thing.
I have three quick questions for you. This is going to be today's version of name dropping and word association. I'm going to ask you, we've pinpointed your three main areas of creation, of love, G.I. Joe, comic books, and hip hop. Okay. So, two-part question. Who was the best G.I. Joe?
G.I. Joe or Cobra?
G.I. Joe. Second part is Cobra. Who's the best? Who's the best of each? Best G.I. Joe, best Cobra.
Look, if I got to pick one, I got to go Flint.
Flint.
I always liked Flint. I always liked Flint.
Justify this response, sir.
You know, I think it's probably because I watched the G.I. Joe cartoons before I read the comic. I love Snake Eyes too, obviously. Snake Eyes is incredible. Yeah. And in the comics, it's Snake Eyes, but in the cartoon, like episode after episode, Flint is entertaining. He's got a sense of humor. He's a good leader. He's not at the top. Like, you know, there's people above him. So he's not like quite the big boss guy, but he takes charge. You know, him and Lady J have a great working relationship. And God. Flint had a great sense of humor, like I said, and he's great on those cartoons. Like, I always loved Flint on the cartoon. And, you know, there's other characters like Recondo. I always liked the Recondo figure and everything. But, yeah, I kind of keep coming back, especially now that I get older. It's like, yeah, those, you know, because Shipwreck's hilarious, but he can be kind of a goofball. and a slacker. I like that Flint has discipline, but also he's got some great sarcastic quips in that show, and he's a respectable guy. He's a hardworking guy. Like, yeah, Flint. There you go.
Okay, and Cobra.
Wow, that's so hard. Probably Destro.
Good choice.
Yeah, Destro. If I have to pick one, but there are so many good ones. I love Zartan as well, and of course, Cobra Commander is amazing. But
if you have to pick one,
Destro across everything.
Yeah.
Arguably, he still is the best live action character in the G.I. Joe movies. I think Destro, they did a good job with him, Christopher Eccleston, and although Firefly was pretty good too. But.
How many? This is just a side thought as we're looking around in your background here. How many feet are you away from a G.I. Joe figure?
Not
would
far.
You have to get out of that chair to put your hands on a G.I. Joe figure?
You know what? Not normally, but I think right now,
I clean up or something.
I probably would. I do have the Nth Man figure that was made for the Assembly Required convention, and they asked me to write the file card for that. So that was pretty cool. That's a Larry Hama G.I. Joe adjacent thing. But yeah, I do have a lot of Joes. I had Flint here the other day, but I don't know where he is. Yeah. I know this is you're looking. This is the Wordburglar that you are.
Oh, that's nice. Into. That is good wordplay, sir.
I am. This is like Batman's got the Bat Cave. This is where I keep all my trophies, pens, and microphones and stuff. We got mic and headphones and mixer. Yeah. Is
that a copy of Welcome to Cobra Island behind you?
That is my own album. Because I always say, I make my own records, so I get free copies.
That's okay. Hey, listen, I mean, above my head, I'm hanging some pages from my stuff, and over right here is a CGC copy of Heroes of Homeroom C. So, I mean,
you CGC'd it. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, I CGC one copy of all my shit.
Wow.
There's a CGC somewhere in the apartment. There's a CGC copy of the 22-page ash can of this, where the characters are still white. before we went to actually self-publish the book, the first thing I did was have Carlos, because I'd been shopping it to publishers. And the first thing I did when Carlos Granda and I settled on, okay, we're going to make this the next project. We're going to do the 72-page version of this, yada, yada, yada. I said, okay, first things first, redraw the faces on those kids. They're black now. Because I talk about this in one of the editorials in the book, I had made the characters white because I thought it would be easier to shop at the publishers. And as soon as I decided that I was going to self-publish it, my very next thought was, well, I don't have to compromise.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about, it was like Spawn when Spawn goes to hell and the devil makes him a white guy.
It was purely a compromise on my part for what I thought would get the book sold.
Wow.
When I decided to self-publish, I was free of those chains.
That's amazing.
And I had Carlos redraw the characters.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's a great book. And,
thank you.
Props to you, man, for sure. And the art, props to Carlos, of course.
Oh, God, that kid is so good. Speaking of comic book artists, who is the one comic book artist you most want to work with? Don't give me a list. Give me one name. I know that part hurts you.
Living or dead, because we lost a lot of great ones.
Living, because I mean, I'd love to give Jack Kirby a script.
I know, right? Like, I was the biggest George Perez fan, and that still hurts. And George Perez would have been the first number one answer.
Okay. I'll let you get away with that, but you have to give me one name.
I mean, I love Steve Dillon too, and he's, that was like a big one because Steve Dillon's.
Stop it.
Now I'm just naming.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, past.
one living artist.
You know who I always liked, and I don't know what happened to them. Mark Bright, MD Bright, who did a run on G.I. Joe, and his run on G.I. Joe was awesome. It was so good. And he was later on in the run where I think a lot of people had kind of stopped reading. And MD Bright, who was later Mark Bright, I think he went to Acclaim Comics at one point. Like he did Quantum and Woody. I have no idea what he does now, but I'm just thinking of like the comics I loved as a kid. I would love to do like a G.I. Joe comic with MD Bright.
That is a very unexpected but cool name. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know if he still illustrates. I never see him at conventions or anything.
His Wikipedia is not in chronographic order, so the last thing that I can, and I'm not wearing my glasses, the last thing that I can see here is 5-issue Quantum and Woody miniseries published by Valiant in 2014, 2015.
Yeah, I've got that. Like, I feel like that's the last thing I've seen him do.
But yeah, I don't know if there's anything after that. So,
because with all the G.I. Joe, like now there's been a great resurgence of like the G.I. Joe artists, and Ron Wagner's been doing some cool stuff, and you see people popping up. And I'm just surprised that I don't see more people talking about MD Bright, because that run, it's amazing.
If you're out there and you can connect Wordburglar with Mark Bright, please do so.
Yeah. Well, I just like to even say, hey, awesome stuff. I love your work.
Last question, similar vein. You can have one rapper spit bars on one of your songs. Pick one living rapper. Don't fake me out by saying like the Beastie Boys counts as one.
Well, I got to
work with
Cool Keith, which would have been my number one. So I got Cool Keith. Obviously, MF Doom would have been up there, but again, rest in peace. Master Ace. It'd be Master Ace.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Master Ace was a huge influence on me growing up. Like his rhyme writing style and just his concepts and his everything. He's just one of the best rappers of all time. Highly slept on.
All right. So, Wordburglar, give us the elevator pitch here. Tell us about the new album one more time. Tell us when it's available and where, and then we'll send people out to pick up copies.
Well, I'm gonna be dropping it next week, the last day in June. Just go to wordburglar.com. I'm not sure when this is dropping. So
this is dropping Tuesday the 28th. So you've got 2 days. Well, Thursday, the 30th of June.
Well, it'll probably be available by then. I might just do a secret silent drop. I've been kind of just like feeling this out. I'm like, all right, let's see. Do people really want it? Or
what you're saying is you're getting anxious and you just want to pull the trigger.
Oh, I want to pull the trigger. I've been sitting on this. It's going to feel, I'm so excited. Kalman Androshovsky did the artwork. He just nailed it. It's going to melt people's brains. The album is so good, and look, if you're looking for mad rhymes, I might know a few. It's tough to put in words, so I do.
And where
Burgonomic, check it out. It'll be on Bandcamp for the first month for all of July, and then it'll be on every other platform in August. So I like to drop stuff first on Bandcamp, and we'll do pre-orders for CDs and all that good stuff. Yeah. And right now the first single is available, so you can go check out Woolco Tapes, which is a song about the tapes that I first used to dub all my albums on and mixtapes when I was a kid. And I used to get them at Woolco at Scotia Square in Halifax. And they had a great selection of G.I. Joes. And like movie posters and stuff. And Woolco, you remember Woolco, don't you?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And an ode to cheap 3 packs of cassette tapes is exactly what we need right now.
Exactly.
Okay, Wordburglar. Hey, listen, celebrate your Canada Day / Independence Day weekend by waking up early on Thursday, June 30th, and buying your copy of this album on Bandcamp. This is a good thing. This is a good plan.
Well, thank you, and we're gonna make it very reasonable and very accessible.
Very good. Tell them where they can find you on the social medias.
Yeah, Wordburglar everywhere. I think I'm the only Wordburglar in the phone book. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter. I don't even think the phone book exists anymore.
You can order one. You can order one.
Sweet. I trust you to know that.
Actually have to special order one.
You are the guy who would know that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Strangely enough.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, everything. If you just type in Wordburglar, you'll find me.
Very good.
I'll be following Anthony. So if you guys, you can find me. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everybody tuning into this.
Glad we were finally able to make this happen. We've been talking about this for a while. So.
Yeah, it's been forever. I know we used to bump into. I feel like the last time I saw you, we bumped into each other on the subway or something.
I bump into a lot of people on the subway. It's mostly because I'm fat and clumsy.
Or like agile and a magnetic attraction.
Yeah, that's me. If you're ever at Young and Bloor and you see a guy cartwheeling down the platform, it's not the ghost of Bam Bam Bigelow. It's me.
Deep cut. Bam Bam Big.
Wordburglar, thank you for joining us on yet another episode of the Handsome Genius Club Radio Show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Peace.